Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about how I am processing email. I'm going to put a screenshot right here, and it's actually going to be there throughout the entire video so you can see what it is that I am referring to. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is the folder structure that I have. You'll see that I have at the top of the labels, because we use Google as a basis for our work email, you'll see that I have folders or labels set up numbered so that they automatically are put at the top. I have process, I have pending, which has a bunch of subfolders, and then I have waiting for, and then I have meeting prep. So those are the four categories that I'm using most often when I am processing my email. Underneath that are all of my archive files. So once I have finished processing, I do save all of my email because you'd be surprised how often I have to get back into it again for one reason or another. So once I'm finished with it and have sorted it out of one of the four folders that are numbered, then they go into the folders down below. You'll see that I have ones for the industry associations that I belong to, I have one for a company, I have one for residents and applicants, I have one for owners, and a few other miscellaneous ones as well. But those are where I keep all of the archived emails, so if I ever need to get to them, I can find them. Truth be known, that's just an easy way for me to see everything at a glance. Most of the time, I would say 95% of the time, I'm not pulling stuff up in a label. I'm actually doing a search for an email address or a name or a word or something in the search bar, because everything is indexed automatically and it's so much easier to find it that way than trying to look through all the folders, some of which have tens of thousands of emails inside of them. So anyway, I wanted to start by telling you how I process things from start to finish. When an email comes into my inbox, and usually it's not just one, usually it's quite a few. In the mornings, I generally will have about 20 emails from overnight. I would say about half of those are actually emails that are trash, to be honest with you. So the first thing I do when I'm processing my emails, I scan through all of my email subject lines and see which ones I can delete immediately. That saves me from having to open them. Usually I can tell which ones those are. If it's iffy, I leave it. The next thing I do is I scan for something that will take me just a few seconds to deal with. So for example, we have a lot of our vendors that will email us their invoices. Some of those are ones that I pay, so I look for those and I open the email, I pull the attachment out into a scanned files folder that's on my computer, which is where I store all of my electronic invoices while they're waiting to be paid. And then when I'm done with that, I tag it with vendor and I archive it, get it out of my inbox. So that's an example of a type of an email that takes less than 2 minutes to process, and it's taken care of and it's gone. I also then look at ones that I'm not sure if they're trash or if they're somebody actually trying to get a hold of me for a valid reason. So I'll open those up and see what those are. Usually at this point in time, I'm just starting to go email by email to see what it is. If it's something I can take care of quickly, maybe it's something I'm not having to deal with, maybe somebody else has to deal with it, then I immediately forward it, tag it with whatever category it belongs to, get it out of my inbox. If it's something that it's going to take me a little bit of time to work with, that's when I actually will label it with a process tag. If I am scanning and trying to get through things first thing in the morning, usually I'm not going to take the time to work on email. I'm just making sure nothing has blown up overnight that I need to take care of, and then I'm going to be working on the most important things on my to-do list. I try not to spend a whole bunch of time in email first thing in the morning. So again, if it's going to take me a little bit of time to respond to, I have to do some research, then I'm going through tagging it with process, getting it out of my inbox. So my goal is when I'm done looking through my emails, every time I'm in my inbox, it's at 0. Let's say I've done my most important things, I've had my couple of tasks that I really needed to get done that day, I've gotten those finished, now I'm ready to go back in and start working on things that came in via email. So where I actually end up going is straight into my process folder. Then I'm looking at it and figuring out, is it something I just need to respond to? Is it something that's going to take me a little bit longer to deal with? If I can deal with it in a reasonable amount of time, then I'm going to go ahead and take care of it. Again, label it, get it out of that folder. If it's something that's going to take me a bit of time to reply to, it's not something I need to do right that second or today, then I'm actually going to label it with pending, and then I'm going to add it to my to-do list. So that's what that pending tag means to me, is it means that that email's on a to-do list someplace. So I'm not having to necessarily work out of my pending folder as a to-do list. It's already included in the paper to-do list that I keep in the back of my bullet journal. That's also a place that everything sits while it's not finished. So things can have multiple tags, which is why I like the tag system rather than having it in a folder where it can only be in one spot at a time. So I will have things sitting in my pending folder folder that are also tagged as waiting for. So maybe it's pending because it's not finished, but I'm also waiting for something. So I have those tags color coded. The waiting for tag is actually very bright yellow. So as I'm scanning through, I can see, oh, hey, look, I'm waiting for something before I can continue working on that email. Sometimes it's a response. Sometimes it's a document that I need that I've requested. It just depends on what the email is. So when I'm getting ready to work on things for the day, when I'm making my to-do list or I've finished the things I had scheduled and I'm looking for additional things to do, I will go flip to my to-do list and scan through and see what needs to be addressed. And then if you've looked at my bullet journal, Plan With Me's or my setup video, you'll see in the tasks I have an EM next to the right side of the page, and that actually indicates to me that that to-do list is tied to an email. So that email that it's usually referencing is in my pending folder, so I always know where it is. And I do go ahead and label things with the place that they're going to go when I'm finished with it. So if it belongs to an owner, if an owner sent me an email, it's regarding one of his or her properties, I'll go ahead and tag it with that owner's name. So that way when I'm finished with it, all I have to do is remove the pending tag and it automatically gets filed in the correct spot. I've learned the hard way, if you don't tag it, then when you remove the pending folder, that email just disappears. Especially if you're working out of the list view, not the email itself. So I go ahead and tag it. And also too, that helps me when I'm scanning through that folder. If I just am like, I want to work on something that came in via email, I don't know what it is, I can scan through that folder and I can quickly see what it's related to. Is it related to a software program we use? Is it related to an owner? Maybe it's a resident. Maybe it's an industry association thing. That allows me to quickly scan and see what it is that I want to work on. Because sometimes I want to knock out a grouping of things all together. So maybe I want to work on a bunch of financial stuff all at the same time because I'm already in that mindset. Or maybe I'm already working on industry information, and so I'm going to go ahead and look for other related items so that while I'm in that mindset and already thinking about it, I can go ahead and continue working on that. The other reason I like the fact that we use Google for Business to support our email is because we can use those label structures. So you'll see that I have some tags that are fairly general and the other ones are hidden for privacy purposes, but I have tags that are fairly specific, as in like an owner's name. So I can have something tagged with an owner's name and also legal if it relates to some sort of a legal issue maybe we're having with the resident or with the property, so that I have two different places. Or if I'm in the owner's name, I can scan and look for anything that's related to legal items. So that's the other nice thing about using labels instead of folders, which usually Outlook is using that folder structure. Granted, caveat, I have not used Outlook in a very long time, so I don't know if it's still that way. I'm sure somebody can mention in the comments below whether it is or not, but back in the day when I used Outlook, it was based on a folder structure, not on tags or labels, and that was one of the downfalls, is it could only be in one place at a time. A couple things I used to do that I found didn't really work for me all that much. I used to use the star icon as a way of indicating things that I needed to do. The problem is I didn't live in my starred folder, so it basically really didn't mean all that much. If you use Google and you have the bunch of different tabs, you have like inbox, updates, and social, and those sorts of things, you can actually have the star move everything to that primary inbox tab. But because I keep my inbox empty, I don't need all the different tabs. Things are not in my inbox long enough to warrant me having to sort through whether it's a social or an update or a promotional item. So that actually isn't very useful for me anymore. Other than that, the folders that you see at the top are just the standard ones. I think I can go in and hide them. To be honest, I haven't tried, but I probably will go in and hide the starred folder and the important folder. Those two really and truly are not all that useful to me because I don't use that Google designated important, which is essentially stuff that's only sent to me as anything that I need to look through, because I'm tagging or labeling them with other things to get them out of my inbox into my own file structure so they're in a place that I can find them later. I'm pretty sure, I haven't looked recently because to be honest it's not that important, it's 2 little lines, but I'm pretty sure I can go into the settings under labels and actually indicate that I want those hidden. And I think you can say hide unless unread, so that's another option if you're using them for something, but otherwise I think you can just hide them so they don't show up at all. The only place you'd be able to see them is if you scroll all the way down to the bottom. There's a little thing that says more, and if you click on that it shows all the different labels that you've hidden. So that's the other place to find those if you decide to hide them. So So that's how I process emails at work. And actually I've converted my personal email as well to the same email structure. And I've tried to start putting things under pending and process because I get a lot of personal email, probably even more than I get at the office. And a lot of it's junk. And so I spend a lot of time in the morning. I just run through and delete a bunch of things. I try and unsubscribe, but some of it's things that I like to see periodically, but just not every single day. And I haven't had the chance to go in and edit any of the settings and either unsubscribe or change the delivery settings. Some companies will let you do that. And I've used other programs. I've used, I think it's called Roll Me Up, which sent me a daily digest. I've used SaneBox, which worked for a little bit. But again, the problem is when they're filtering things for me, if it's not in one spot, I stop paying attention to it, and then it builds up and I look and all of a sudden I have 1,000 emails and I'm like, where did all of these emails come from? I don't understand. These weren't here yesterday. And then I start putting it off because I don't want to go through it. And you know, email a long time ago, it seemed like such a good idea at the time. I don't know. All of a sudden people like snail mail now. They prefer to get a letter in the mailbox because it means something. It used to be you got a lot of junk mail that way and everybody's converted to doing it electronically. But it is convenient, I will give it that. But that is how I process my email and how I keep it at 0. And really and truly my goal is to have it at 0, usually by the end of the day, especially at work. At home, I'm a little more lax about it. Maybe on the weekends, I'll just kind of glance at it, I go, I'll just deal with it later. But having that process folder and the pending folder gives me a place to put things where I know, okay, this is the place I need to go to pay attention to stuff that's very important to me that I know I need to do something about. And then the rest of it I can kind of ignore a little bit. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments box down below. If you have any tips or tricks for how you process email that you'd like to share, I'd love to hear it. I'm always looking for better ways to improve. If you like the video, I'd appreciate you giving it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I do have more functional planning, business tips, those sorts of videos coming, and I definitely would want you to be notified as soon as they're available. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.